and welcome to Light for Life. If you are returning to our channel, thank you. We value and appreciate you. Our aim is to shine a bright light on your inner splendor and assist to connect you to your magnificence via what we intend to be enlightened sharing, potentially educational and hopefully entertaining information, as well as encouragement for new perspectives. If you are new here, you are most welcome. We do hope that you will find our content highly beneficial and enjoyable. I am Liss. I'm a Science of Mind practitioner and a teacher of various healing modalities applicable to all aspects of the self and this life.
And I am Lori. I am a holistic wellness researcher and educator. Welcome to Connections with Liss and Lori. We use the space to offer our perspective regarding multiple different topics that we certainly hope you find inspiring.
Today we're going to be discussing surrender and what surrender might look like or mean for each of us, for all of you. And ideally, we're giving you some points to ponder. So what is surrender outside of what most people probably envision right away, the little white flag that waves? Or perhaps the idea that it's automatically some kind of resignation to defeat in some way. So is surrender automatically resignation? Is it automatically defeat? Or is it perhaps something greater? Is it perhaps a way that we are more vulnerable to how we take an approach to the things that we struggle with, such as relationships in our home, relationships at work? It really could be anything. We could struggle with the weather. We could struggle with politics, all kinds of ways that we could struggle, and perhaps ways that we just don't want to struggle anymore. So perhaps surrender is a very simple, gentle realization that we're struggling with something that is completely out of our control and we don't want to do that anymore. And perhaps we want to shift gears and look at what we do want and how we are going to wave the white flag to ourselves and to set aside that struggle and open up to more flow and create a little bit of space where we have room to create what we do want in our relationships with our spouse or our coworkers, or with how we relate to the world in general, or the weather that might not be the temperature that we were hoping for. So I believe surrender really is a very gentle act of self-love. What do you think about that, my love?
I think is the right adjective, Lori, because you know I'm a very mental person. So I would always start with what is the concept of surrender actually about? There are many misconceptions, you're right, about the idea of surrender. The main one being that it somehow means giving up, as in quitting, which most of us have a very strong, and I might add, healthy resistance to. Because we are innately wired for survival, for continuation and endurance. Or the other common misconception that it means a letting go to something that is external to ourselves, something somehow greater, more powerful, or overriding. And it matters not whether we think that that greater external something is good or bad in our judgments, whether it's a God concept of some sort or a circumstance. We kick mightily against the notion of surrender. So what is it then if we have this inbuilt resistance to it? In my opinion, to surrender is just acceptance. Because what we have surrendered to, we have accepted. It's akin to detachment, I think, in that regard, because it holds a correspondence with freedom, Because when we allow ourselves to become attached to something, we bind ourselves to that. And the cruel irony of that is that often we are most attached and chained by the very things, situations, circumstances, people, relationships that we say we don't want, yet we cannot seem to let go. So practicing acceptance is one of the keys to surrender, at least the kind that frees us. It seems counterintuitive to accept what we don't want in order to be released from it. Because surely, if I accept it, then it means I allow it. And it will remain a reality, a situation or a status quo that I don't want. But no, actually. Because acceptance at its heart is sanity. It's clear crystal clarity. Because whatever we are accepting because it is. It is. So the only sane thing to do is accept it because it is.
Right.
As long as we resist what is, we are giving it a force field of energy that resistance is. And so the only effective thing we can do to shift a situation is to accept it. Because resistance is what keeps things in place. Resistance is what holds things in state. When we can allow what is to be, just let it be, when we accept it, it's metaphorically in our hands. And we have the power to change what is in our hands. Until something is in our hands, we have no power over it. And that is why acceptance is the foundation of change, the only one. So what we are actually surrendering or giving up when we accept is simply resistance to what is. That's all we're surrendering. And then we can choose to give the situation transformation energy instead of the resistance force field that's going to keep it the way it is. So when we give something transformation energy, what we're doing is we are releasing it to its highest potential. So we free ourselves to create change, to manifest our desires, to build our dreams, to become better, to heal, when resistance is dropped. It's the biggest favor to the self ever. That's my take.
You have such a beautiful, eloquent way with language. Every time I listen to you, I think, boy, I'm just not very eloquent.
Nonsense,
but I really
nonsense, Lori.
I really like the concept of how much freedom there is in surrender. And if we can talk about that just a tiny bit more, it doesn't have to be this resignation like we talked about. It really can be profoundly liberating to embrace that freedom of that acceptance. Because you're right, it already is. So us struggling with what already is really a waste of energy. And if we can refocus that energy on the freedom of the acceptance and start to create that space within ourselves and within our thoughts and within our mind, when we're not putting so much energy into the resistance of it, that creative space is really where the action takes place, and really where we can start to get solid on the details of what we do want, because it is creative, right? When we're not resisting, there's all of this room for creativity and zero room for creativity in the space of resistance. So I would encourage people to think of surrender as freedom, as liberation, as moving out of the problems and into the solutions, as a really loving shift in perspective toward problem, struggle, to wait a minute. I have a choice here. I have a choice to start creating the outcomes that I do want. And then we can get those creative juices flowing and maybe even get out a pen and paper and really get down into the beautiful, endless possibilities of what we do want in our lives. Yes?
Absolutely. Because resistance is such a powerful force. And what people may not realize is that that powerful force is first internalized. Whatever we resist, we turn that resistance against ourselves first. It's only once we've internalized it that we project it out onto an undesired state. And it becomes the magnetization that keeps it in place and tries to ground it, which it can't do. Because the thing is, in an electromagnetic realm, such as 3D reality is, positive energy grounds here, and negative energy rises from an electrostatic perspective. So when we are positively polarized, magnetically speaking, in terms of our state of being, which is the composite of all of our various energies. So our thoughts, our feelings, our beliefs, our programming, our trauma, our identifications, archetypes, you name it. But when that is positively polarized via the states of acceptance and allowance, then we can earth, otherwise known as bringing into this reality, we can earth the positive, desired, preferred state. And we can allow the negativity, otherwise known as resistance, to rise back up like it wants to do into 4D. That's how we give things back to potential. And that's also why what we resist persists when we do the opposite. Because you see, negativity can't ground. So what happens is that we hold it here by our negative magnetization. We hold it inside our own personal energy field because it can't go anywhere else. We're not allowing it to.
Right.
So that is what resistance actually is. It's a literal frequency block that we create around ourselves that keeps out everything that we say we do want. So surrender and detachment and non-resistance doesn't mean that we're going to pretend to like or agree with the things or conditions that we don't. Or that we're going to try to lie to ourselves now about the actual state of things or how we feel about it, and then attempt to believe ourselves about them. No. Awareness requires us, if we're truly going to allow and accept, to exercise true recognition, to have an honest assessment and the right perception. So we might be waving a conceptual white flag in order to surrender to what is. But we're only doing that in order to alter it. So what that all means is that when we can accept what is fully, accept it fully, then we can choose to trust in and activate what we prefer. So we're not fighting against anything, but we are opening up for that which we do want. We're open to all preferred possibilities this way, and to all potentiality. And yes, that is creative. And it's the mechanism of what attraction is. That's what they mean by the law of attraction. It's magnetic, and we are the magnet. We set the polarity. So we can also only ever do that in the present, right here and right now. And we're never fully present to the present when we're in resistance. Because when we're holding resistance, it's either rooted in the past, in fear, or it's projected to an non-existent future in anxiety. So we can only attract, create, and manifest now. And so for that reason, I encourage release. First and foremost of yourself. Realize that you can accept what is and thereby change it. They are not two separate things. They are one and the same. Acceptance and the ability to change are one and the same thing. So you can change things by exercising your will in terms of preferred choice. And move out of this trained habit in our minds to seek control. It's not easy, but we can train our minds to let go of control. Because what we want to do in this lower vibrational experience that's upheld by fear, because we don't understand our power, magnetically speaking, is that we want to grab the wheel with resistance and try and steer out of the way of the harm that we perceive. But we end up causing an accident instead, usually, because of that force field. And so please know that anything that is can be changed. Anything. It can be regenerated. It can be inverted. It can be transmuted. It can be transcended. Can be transformed. Anything. But before we can do that, we have to accept and allow, aka surrender. And then we'll see the possibilities that we can exercise our power to create with. So surrender is an act of tremendous empowerment. And it will create a state that the state of control can never, ever achieve.
Oh, it really is. The way that you express and explain is really extraordinary. And I'm so glad that we're doing this so other people can enjoy your understanding and your expression. And I'm really glad that you mentioned how our brains more or less create these habits that we might not even be aware of, that do ultimately end up in us trying to control, you know, like you said, grab the steering wheel and we're trying to XYZ, but it really is just a habit that our brain got into a pattern of playing out in our lives. And it is so empowering to understand, to truly understand that just like we created that habit, we can use our own personal self-awareness to observe what we're doing and decide if we want to keep doing that or if we want to make a new decision and redevelop a habit, what do they call that? Creating new neural pathways to then intentionally create the new habit and intentionally create our brain training to create the results that we want. It's that self-awareness piece that we have to have first to be able to observe our thought and to be able to observe our patterns and to be able to recognize what just is not working. And to be able to recognize, okay, this is not working. I keep doing this. It's not working. I don't want to do this anymore. Let's try something new. And it can be really empowering. Yes. So I think that's probably the only thoughts that I have to contribute to what you said. Do you have any final thoughts?
No, Lori, I just wanted to say that we must never forget, while we're so busy with all this training and making new, more aware choices, don't forget to enjoy the process.
Yeah.
Enjoy the process. That's what creation is actually all about. That's the only reason why we would surrender to anything, is because there's something we'd like to enjoy more. So that would be all that I can add.
Absolutely. We can row our boat gently down the stream, merrily.
Exactly.
It can be effortless and joyous. if we allow
In
it.
fact, it's meant to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you for connecting with Light for Life. If you appreciate reminders, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel so you can receive those notifications. If you would like to work with one of us, you can find our contact information in the About section of this channel.
Yes, thank you for connecting with Light for Life. Please share your insights, your questions, and your comments with us in the comment section below. We value your feedback. And we really hope that we will see you for our next episode. We upload one every Thursday. Until then, bye-bye and be joyful.
Until we connect again, we send you love and light.